Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our Estrella virtual visit series. My name is Allison Campbell, and I'm joined today by Tracy Shuman from The Ohio State University. Our virtual visit series is designed to introduce you to a variety of colleges and allow for us to get to know the institutions and their staff in a more personal way. So thank you, Tracy, for joining us. Do you mind just taking a moment and telling us a bit about yourself and how long you've worked at Ohio State?
Sure, thanks. Thanks, Allison. And thanks everyone for watching our presentation. As Allison said, my name is Tracy Shuman, and I'm an Associate Director of Undergraduate Admissions at The Ohio State University. I've been in higher ed now for over 15 years, and I've been with Ohio State for 11 years. So I work primarily with students from Northeast Ohio. I'm actually based in the greater Cleveland area. So I visit high schools and college fairs, and one of the primary contacts for students in the greater Cleveland area. So again, glad to be here and to be a resource for all of you who might be interested in The Ohio State University.
Thanks, Tracy. So, as many of the people who are watching this know, we are based out of Northeast Ohio as well, but we work with families and students from all across the US. So for those of our students that maybe aren't based in Ohio or in Northeast Ohio, can you tell us a little bit about Ohio State as an institution, the location, the enrollment, what type of institution it is?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Ohio State University is located in Columbus, Ohio. We are one of the largest institutions in the country. Within Ohio, we have 5 regional campuses located throughout the state, and then the main campus is located in Columbus. Our overall enrollment is a little over 65,000 students between undergraduate, graduate, and professional students. We are a Tier 1 research institution and a public institution, the land-grant and flagship institution of the state of Ohio. We bring students from all over the world and from all over the country and all over the world to Ohio State. And I think that's one of the things that makes our institution special is the really talented and diverse student body that we have on our campus. We have a very active and engaged campus community, from students' involvement in extracurriculars or Division I athletics. There's always a lot going on our campus, and our students really thrive both inside and outside of the classroom.
Thanks for explaining a little bit about that. And I know that Columbus is such a desirable area, especially for young adults. We just see that, Columbus seems to be one of the most popular and fastest growing locations. So I'm sure it's very desirable, especially for our in-state students. But if you're from out of state and you've never been to Columbus, it's a great, great college town.
Yeah.
I also want to touch on too, it's been over 20 years since I went through this process, but being an Ohioan, it used to be that if I didn't get into XYZ school, I could go to Ohio State, and that is certainly not the case anymore. Ohio State has become increasingly competitive. Also, as Tracy knows, and some of you know, I worked for a number of years as an application reviewer for Ohio State, and the incredible applicants that Ohio State is receiving right now, it's really hard to make a judgment call. But could you tell us a little bit about what type of student you are looking for at The Ohio State University?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll touch on Columbus a little bit more too, Allison, before I get to that, because you're right, it is a great location. Those of you who perhaps have not visited our campus, I think what is really unique is that we have a very college feel to our campus. So whether you're on the Oval, which is the picture behind me, you're in Thompson Library or the Horseshoe, it really does feel like a college campus. But we do have a large metropolitan city just a few minutes down the road from us. Columbus is actually the 14th largest city in the country, and it's actually very accessible. So those of students who may be coming from out of state, it is very easy to get to Columbus, whether by car or through flights. And we're about 15 to 20 minutes from the airport. So again, it's really accessible to be and unique to be in a large city that it's easy to get around. And our students take full advantage of all the things happening on campus, but also the things happening in the city of Columbus. But to Allison's point, Ohio State in the past 10 years has really grown in its selectivity because we have so many students, not only from Ohio, but really throughout the country and world, who have recognized us as a great college destination and a great opportunity. And that competitiveness has continued to increase as we go. So students who are competitive for admission, or students that we're looking to ultimately enroll at the institution, have obviously done well academically. So these are students who perhaps are in the top 10 or 15% of their graduating class, and more so than just the overall performance, but really challenging themselves if they have rigorous coursework available to them. So things like honors courses or AP or IB or dual enrollment are really things that strengthen a student's application. But we're also looking for students who can manage the balance of the classroom and the out of classroom experience. As I mentioned earlier, our campus community is very active. Students are involved in a variety of things, from clubs and organizations to internships to jobs on campus or jobs in the area. And we really want to find that student who can strike the balance of really being a strong student, but also we feel comfortable and confident that they're going to actively engage in those opportunities. We put a lot of emphasis on experiential learning for our students, and so we want them to really take advantage and maximize those out of classroom experiences. So students, again, who've done well in the classroom and have shown a great commitment to things outside the classroom, 3 or 4 involvements, show a lot of depth and breadth. That gives us some good insight into who would be a good fit at the Columbus campus.
That's really good information, Tracy. We stress this with our students a lot. I mean, we have really talented students that are extremely smart and they have high GPAs. They've taken a lot of course, rigor, and they've scored really well on standardized testing. But that could be a dime a dozen, and really making yourself stand out. And I've noticed, just through my own PD, that a lot of colleges are really looking for students that bring more to the table. Like, how are you going to engage on campus? What are you going to bring that's going to enhance the campus life, or a service activity? So showing, your values of compassion or, responsibility or something like that. So we really stress that at Estrella, and finding something that is definitely a passion for you, not just doing something for the sake of putting it on a college resume. Because as we both know, as people that have previously read for institutions, you can see right through that. If they have 5 or 6 1 or 2 hour commitments as a senior versus someone who spent, maybe 20 hours a month really invested in a certain passion project or a philanthropy or a school activity. So I can agree with you that, Ohio State is really looking for not only strong academic candidates, but also students that are going to enrich and enliven the campus community.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're not also looking that those activities that a student does in high school has to then be the exact match that they're going to do in college. They're going to be exposed to a lot of new things and maybe want to try new experiences. But I think having that foundation of that out of classroom involvement, that's the spirit of that. We're looking for that to then translate to our campus community.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, as for many high school students, if they are maybe at a smaller school or a school that maybe doesn't have as many opportunities, and then they go to somewhere like Ohio State, where I'm sure there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clubs and opportunities and ways to get involved, they will really flourish and take off with that. Also, I've seen some students that are looking to, they maybe are really hyper involved in high school, maybe at the push of a parent, or just that feeling like that a culture, the achievement culture feeling where they need to just keep up and do as many things as possible. But then they kind of take a step back and focus on their academics. But I'm sure you guys have like involvement fairs or like connections for the students to kind of suss that out and see what they might want to get involved in once they get on campus.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big piece, particularly that we focus on with our freshmen as they're transitioning from high school to college. We do have several large involvement fairs where our clubs and organizations set up tables and are just there for students to walk around. They're obviously going to get inundated with emails and invitations to a variety of things, but we really put a lot of emphasis on that first year, not only for involvement, but to also learn about the support that we have on campus. So what type of tutoring offerings are happening within the colleges or the university as a whole? What type of additional academic support exists if a student needs it? And so those are things that we want students to learn about, know about, because we want them to obviously make a successful transition both academically and socially at Ohio State.
This will kind of lead us into the next question, a little bit out of order than what I had it, but again, it lends itself right to it. You talked a little bit about academic supports. So I would love to know on both ends of the spectrum. We'll start with maybe a student that is coming in with, needing some sort of accommodation or has a 504 and IEP. Do you have, I mean, I'm sure you do, obviously, but can you give us a little bit more detail on that transition and how a student could obviously work with support staff or disability services to receive those accommodations, or maybe like a
Yeah.
standard program that, maybe at risk applicants might be flagged into?
Yeah, absolutely. So the big one that we encourage students to connect with is at the Office of Disability Services. And this is really a good starting point because this is where students will have the opportunity to do something like an intake meeting where if there's any type of documentation or previous assessments that they've had, that they can then share with our staff, and they will then work to provide whatever accommodations a student might need. So sometimes that's an academic or a classroom setting, but it also could be a living accommodation that needs to be in place. So in those instances, those staff members would work with our housing on campus as well. Similarly, if there are dietary restrictions, that's also a place to start. So again, it's not just the academic piece; it's the living away from home and maybe having some additional needs and support that students have. So that's usually the first place we encourage students to start. And the other thing we always tell students is some students may have minor accommodations in high school that they think, well, maybe I won't need this in college. It's always better to have it in place and not need it than try to work backwards and maybe get behind a little bit and then think, oh yeah, I could have really used those accommodations. So students, they may find their own routine and their own resources or good ways for them to be successful without those, but we always encourage students to have them in place just as a safety if they need it. In addition to disability services, we have a variety of first year seminars that we encourage students to participate in. So things like study skills or time management, classes built like this that are really open to all students. But what college often does is perhaps bring to light maybe some gaps that a student had in high school but was still able to be successful. So different than a college day where you may only be in class for 3 or 4 hours a day and the rest of the day is to yourself. Most of your high school day is really scripted. So we're offering courses and speakers on those type of things. We also offer things like financial wellness, how to make good spending decisions as a college student. Obviously, there's a high investment in higher education. Some students are taking out loans, but how can they be most responsible with the funds that they have for any additional living expenses? So again, I would just say in general, our first year experience program does a wonderful job helping students transition, be successful that first year. Academic advisors also play a great role in ensuring a student's success. That's often a first go-to person that students can work with. And then at Ohio State, the one other thing that I'll say is we have a unique program that we're really excited about. It's called our STEP program. It's the second year transformational experience program. So most colleges and universities put a lot of emphasis on that first year, right? We want
Mhm.
students to be successful, get started on the right foot. But the second year is also important. So this program allows students, if they're interested, they have the ability to opt in, is to work with a faculty member and really create some sort of research project. So things like, maybe it is a research project that they want to get involved with. Perhaps it's a study abroad. Maybe it's an internship over the summer. They're going to work with a faculty member to sort of create this plan, and the university will give a student up to $2,000 to support that. So again, that continued support isn't just happening in the first year; it's happening in the second year for students. So it's really a continuous driver for students to be successful. And it's something we're very happy and proud about. Our first year retention rate is about 94%. And we have pretty
It's
large incoming
impressive.
freshman classes, upwards of 8,000 students. And this past year, we've just had some of our highest graduation rates. So again, these little small things that we're doing early, are helping students be successful their entire 4 years as undergrads.
That's great. You really hit the nail on the head that there's a lot of emphasis on the first year experience. And it is a huge transition for most of our students. They're going from living with their parents and, being completely independent and having all of these fun, wonderful things, happening at the same time with the added stress of, college academics. But, that second year too, we kind of forget about that. Like they're still maybe not super sure about the path that they're taking. Maybe they haven't declared a major. Maybe they had a weird, wonky roommate situation.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you a little bit more about housing because I feel like Ohio State's housing is a little bit unique with, the housing requirement. And we get that question quite a bit, actually, like, is there guaranteed housing? How long do I need to live on campus, et cetera? But, making sure that that sophomore year that students are still feeling supported and even connected to someone, and especially the $2,000 assistance toward that project is helpful for
Yeah,
students as well.
absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to go back a little bit and talk just about the admission process to Ohio State. So I know that you're test optional, but are you test required for any particular majors?
Great question. So we are test optional for students who are applying up through autumn of 25. So current seniors we are continuing to be test optional. Students younger than that, so autumn 26 and beyond, we have not made a formal decision on what we will do moving forward. So just something to keep in mind if students are seniors now or seeing this, who are younger, we have not made that decision.
Okay.
Currently, for admission to the university and any of our programs, special programs, or any of our programs, we are test optional. So a student is not required to submit a test score to be considered for, often you might hear the College of Engineering or nursing programs. We continue to be test optional for those as well.
Okay. Even though you're test optional, would you consider yourself test preferred or does it truly not matter?
It really doesn't matter. I might be off a little bit on the percentages here, but this past year, about 55-ish% of students who applied to Ohio State did not have a test score, something like that. And it was about a 50-50 split of who was admitted versus who wasn't. So test
Okay.
scores have always been just one part of our admissions process. Um, and because we do a holistic review and we're looking at a variety of things, the test score could be part of it, but if it's not included, there are many other things that a student can provide to us that helps us, determine, if we can offer them admission. So I would say we are truly test optional.
Okay. Yeah, the statistics speak for themselves as well when you see that, because sometimes I'll do these, interviews and someone will say, oh, well, we're test optional, but then you see that like 90% of students that did submit a test got in and the rest did not. So
Yeah,
I
right.
appreciate that
Absolutely.
transparency. Do you have any direct entry programs? You just said engineering and nursing, but for students that maybe are very sure that those are the programs they want, or maybe students that don't have any idea, like, do they have to apply to a major?
Yeah, great question. So we are test blind, or I'm sorry, we are a major blind in our admission review. So a student who knows exactly what they want to go into versus maybe someone who is undecided are equally competitive for admission. There's not an advantage to one or the other. We do have some direct admit programs. Because we are test optional, almost all of our programs are students are admitted directly into the college that they are interested in going into. We do
Okay.
have a few programs, though, that are competitive that may require an additional step. So within the College of Engineering, there are 14 majors that the college offers. 10 of them are direct enrollment. So if a student is admitted to Ohio State and they've selected one of those 10 majors, they will automatically be in those majors and set on their path towards graduation. If they select, though, however, if a student is interested in aerospace, biomedical, computer science, or mechanical, one of those four, they are admitted to the College of Engineering, but as pre-majors. And essentially, what those students will do is within their first year at Ohio State, take the courses and prerequisites that those majors require, and then apply directly to those programs leading into their sophomore year. So those are there are four of those majors that have a little bit unique process. College of Nursing, similar. So within the past 2 years, we have started a direct enrollment or direct entry into the College of Nursing. It's been a small cohort as the college is um, essentially developing this. But right now, if a student is in the top 5% of their graduating class, if they submit a test score and have a 26 or higher, as well as strong math performance and strong extracurriculars, they will be considered for direct entry. So when a
Okay.
student applies to Ohio State, they're selecting pre-nursing, so similar to that engineering. And if admitted, the college will review a student's application, look at all of their information, and determine, are they eligible for direct admit to the nursing program, or will they stay as a pre-nurse nursing program who will then apply once they're a student at Ohio State. So I probably made that, clear as mud for everybody, but because we are major blind, if a student is admitted to the university, admissible, they will be admitted. But we do have a handful of majors that have a pre-major designation, and so there would be some additional steps for a student to complete.
Okay. That makes sense. So your most competitive, no-brainer students into particular majors, like well, for the nursing, like if you're a
Yeah,
no-brainer on the nursing, you're getting into nursing. But for the, it sounds like the most competitive engineering majors, computer science, biomedical, mechanical, and aeronautical,
exactly.
they
Yes.
have to kind of do like a pre-screen before they get into those particular four majors.
Correct, correct. And it's because of it's a capacity issue. Those are the most popular. They are the
Okay.
most popular. So we do have to manage the enrollment to ensure that there's, proper class size and faculty availability and things like that. The one other thing I'll just add real quick is that the Fisher College of Business is direct admit, direct enrollment. So there are no additional steps for students. I know that that can be a common question, or sometimes there are additional steps for students interested in business, but at Ohio State, they are directly admitted into the Fisher College of Business.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Let's talk quickly about merit aid. So obviously, being in Ohio, and it is a very affordable option for our Ohio students. And, if you're looking at Ohio State from out of state, it's still, expensive, but within the ballpark for many. Um, what type of merit aid is offered? Like, I know that there are a couple big scholarships, but, if you're a strong applicant, which again, I'm sure is a dime a dozen, but um, is there any availability for like smaller merit aid scholarships when you apply to Ohio State?
Yeah, absolutely. So the key for students being eligible for merit scholarships is that they complete their application and meet our early action deadline, which is November 1st. So that's for all students, whether you're an Ohio resident or coming from outside of Ohio. If you would like to be considered for merit, any scholarships, you must apply by November 1st. Now, within Ohio, we have three levels of scholarships for students based on their academics. Our Maximus, Provost, and Trustees Scholarship. They're currently the award level is $3,000, $2,000, and $1,000, and those are for 4 years overall. If a student is coming from outside the state of Ohio and meets that early action deadline, they may be eligible for what we call our National Buckeye Scholarship, and that scholarship goes up to $13,500. And that's essentially designed to eliminate the difference between resident and non-resident tuition. Again, Ohio residents are going to pay less for tuition at Ohio State because our tax dollars are going to support. And so students coming from outside the state of Ohio are not, their taxes are not going to support Ohio institutions. So we have a pretty generous scholarship for our non-resident students that they, again, if applied by November 1st, they have the ability to be considered for that. In addition to
Wow.
that, though, yeah, so it is a nice benefit for students both inside and outside of Ohio. In addition to that, we do also have a really very, very generous and competitive scholarship called the Stamps Eminence Scholarship. And this is really for the most high achieving students. Students often who are offered this scholarship are in the very top of their class, often valedictorians or near, and have very high test scores if they submit. And for this program, most students do because they are, again, very typically very high achieving, both in the classroom and testing, as well as out of
Mhm.
classroom experiences. There is a separate application for this. Again, students still have to apply by November 1st and submit a supplemental application for stamps eminence. For those who are selected initially, there is an interview process, and our goal this year, coming year, is to award about 50 students total. But this covers the full cost of attendance for 4 years and up to a $5,000 stipend.
Wow.
Well, so again, it's very competitive, and you can see why, because of it's a really generous scholarship. But for students who perhaps you're working with who are uber competitive, this may be really something that they should consider applying to.
And is this something that is used for in-state residents and out-of-state residents? I know I've seen a lot of these types of scholarships that are geared at the in-state residents to kind of retain their top talent, but is this for anybody who applies to Ohio State?
It is, it's for all Ohio residents or non-Ohio residents. You just have to be, it's not, international students are not eligible. It's just for US domestic students or permanent residents. Yeah. And I
Okay.
think last year we awarded around 30-ish or so. And I want to say 2/3 were Ohioans, but the other third were non-Ohioans.
Okay. And is this carries over for 4 years? Do they have
Correct.
to do anything particular to get as a sophomore, junior, senior, or just
There
stay in
is
good
a
standing
minimum
and it goes?
GPA requirement to
Okay.
maintain it, which I don't remember off the top of my head. But if students are meeting that requirement, and there's some additional pieces to be part of this, because it is also a programmatic type of program.
Okay.
But students can retain it for 4 years. It's the full cost of attendance.
That's incredible. Marking that down. And thank you for highlighting the November 1 deadline. I mean, I feel like we're pretty on top of that stuff, but if you're watching this and you're considering Ohio State, it's not a terribly challenging application to fill out. There are no extra additional supplements. You know, it is basically your Common App as is, unless
Mhm.
you're going for the Stamps Eminent Scholarship. Can you speak briefly? I know we are coming close on time, but about the Moral Honors Program?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have an honors and scholars program at Ohio State and the moral scholarship program. Honors and scholars does not have a scholarship component to it. Often though, however, the students who are offered spots in honors and scholars are also offered merit scholarships because they tend to be, again, some more of our competitive applicants. But both of these programs, honors and scholars, are really designed for students who are looking for a more academically enriched experience. The honors program is very classroom specific and has a lot of early research opportunities for students. The scholars program is more of an out of classroom experience where students are actually living together in a residence halls and working around a certain theme of that scholars program. So there are 16 themes to choose from. So
Okay.
again, both are great programs and opportunities for students to again, find students who have similar interests as them, perhaps, right? Making that transition, finding some early community, but also helping them with their goals of, what they might want to do in the classroom, or maybe some of the things that they'd like to be involved with. So those are, again, two programs for students looking for some additional challenge. Easy to apply when you complete the common application. You would just select if you're interested in either, and no additional letters of recommendation or essay required to be considered. So it's just
Okay.
checking that part of the Ohio State piece. The other program that you mentioned, though, the Moral Scholarship Program, does have a little bit of additional work to be considered. So the Moral Scholarship Program at Ohio State is what I like to call is one of the truly premier diversity and social justice based scholarship programs in the country. So we're really looking to reward students who in their high school and their community have been actively engaged in social justice initiatives, have been trying to ensure that there's a more inclusive environment and culture in the communities that they're in. And so students who are rewarded for this are part of a program for 4 years. And again, because there is a scholarship component to it, it is more competitive. Students must submit an essay to be considered. And if admitted to Ohio State, they are then reviewed. That essay is reviewed as well as their activity list that hopefully supports their commitment to inclusivity, social justice, et cetera. It's again a very generous scholarship for some students, whether you're an in-state student or out-of-state student, it may cover tuition for 4 years. For other students, after an interview process, a smaller number, they too have the full cost of attendance covered for 4 years. So again, this is eligible for students from both inside and outside of Ohio. And every year, I want to say we offer or we enroll about 350 to 400 students in the Moral Scholarship Program. So it's really something great to be part of, a great community, and obviously the scholarship piece is a nice addition as well.
Wow, that's great. That's another great highlight to keep in mind for our students that are looking at Ohio State. And, maybe it will, I want to say incentivize, but as far as, students that we are currently working with, maybe that are sophomores or juniors and Ohio State's high on their list and they're already dabbling in some sort of social justice or diversity arena that, this could be a
Exactly.
really good segue into a future at Ohio State. So thank you. All right, let's do this last question here. I feel like I'm like lobbing a softball to you on this one. Um, I was going to say, what is your most exciting guest or speaker on campus or interesting alumnus? I feel like we could go on forever on that one, but maybe guest or speaker on campus, because I feel like there's a lot of wonderful Ohio State alums that we could highlight.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe
Um,
someone who's been on campus recently that's been really exciting, or you could do alumnus if that's easier.
yeah, I don't know. That's a really great question. I mean, there's a lot to choose from because we have a variety of speakers. Um, I think several years ago, Barack Obama was our commencement speaker. So it's
It's a
hard
pretty
to
good
pass
one.
up a
Yeah.
former president.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. We have so many concerts on campus and alumni and just so many things. So I guess I'll go with that. It's hard to say, it's hard to pass up a former president, I suppose. But
Oh, for
I think
sure.
that's one of the great things. We have very wonderful and generous alumni, and they're proud to be Buckeyes, and they're excited to come back to Ohio State in any ways, whether as a speaker or just to help promote the university. But I think that's kind of where we're at. It's a good problem to have too many to select from, I suppose.
Yes, definitely. And you could not have hit the nail more on the head. I mean, the pride that Ohio State alums have, I mean, you can be anywhere in the world and you can find an Ohio State alum that will, OHIO you right back and have
That's
their, scarlet and gray on Saturdays. So it is such an exciting place. So Estrella students, if you're considering Ohio State, it's definitely worth a visit. I know Tracy is, the coordinator for Northeast Ohio. But if you're looking to do something on campus, if you get in touch with her, she can direct you to the right person. But if you are a Northeast Ohioan, make sure you look out for Tracy at your high school or at any of the college fairs that are upcoming. And she's such a great resource. So thank you so much, Tracy, for joining us. It was so good seeing you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, everyone. Good luck in this process. I hope it's enjoyable and not too stressful. You have lots of great resources and people around you who want to help you. So take advantage of them and enjoy the process as you go through. All
Well, thank you and have a great recruitment season. And we'll be in touch soon.
right, sounds good. Bye bye.
All right. Bye. Thanks.